Welcome to the RuleBook. I'm your host, Alex Palmer, and I'm the queen of learning things the hard way so you don't have to. On this podcast, we're going to talk about the mistakes I made and the lessons that I learned along the way to create the rules that I now live by. On each episode, we're going to be discussing a new rule, how it came about, why it works, and how you can apply it in your own life. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 1. What are the rules? So some of you may or may not know this, but the rules were actually born on my TikTok. I was actually promoted and fired in the same week, and it was my first real job in social media. I was working for a fashion influencer in Brooklyn, and I was just trying to learn as much as I could. I was making no money whatsoever. I was doing all of the things, assisting, getting clothes, samples, whatever, helping create content, filming, shooting, bullshitting, steaming, whatever I had to do. Running around. And when I asked for more money, I was promptly fired. You know how that goes. But honestly, while I was there, I did feel like I could do a lot of the things that I saw my then boss doing. So I was on TikTok. I was not known on the platform whatsoever. I think I had maybe 200 followers, and I was desperately trying to establish myself as a comedy person, which is not easy to do on TikTok, especially even in 2021. You're not getting the views. It's just not as easy to grow on there as it once was, but that's okay. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe I don't need a 9-to-5 to work in social media. Maybe I can just make it happen on my own, work for myself, right? The dream. And I was quickly running out of original ideas. So one night in February, it was right after I'd gotten fired, and I took my dog to the vet, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, you know what? Why hasn't anybody created a rule where you always have to walk fast in New York City? Because I don't know about you, but I'm very passionate about walking fast in the city. It's like one of my favorite things about the city. But I'm born and raised here, so who knows? Maybe it's just it's like ingrown in me. But yeah, so I went home that night. I just held the camera up to my face, press record of me just walking fast in the city. And when I came home, I did a voiceover. I didn't script it, and this is what came out. Rule number 1 for New York City: always walk fast. Act like you got somewhere to be, even if you don't. And if you don't, pretend someone's chasing you. I posted it. I really didn't think anything of it. And then a couple days later, all of a sudden I was going viral. I was like completely shocked. I was totally elated. But then all of a sudden I had this audience now who I quickly was having to learn how to cater to. And I was going through the comments and I was trying to reply. I pretty much replied to all of them because I know that helps the algorithm. Okay. Can't stop me. And most of the comments were, what is rule number 2? And I was like, oh God, I don't know. I have no idea what rule number 2 is. So I had to sit there and rack my brains to come up with more New York City rules. And I actually have now expanded to, I have 60 New York City rules, and I have dating rules, life rules, and a lot of them are jokes. A lot of them are funny or satirical. And some of them are practical, far and few between. But yes, I now have 60 New York City rules, and maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but I challenge you to come up with 60 original New York City rules that I haven't already, and see where your brain takes you, okay? So after that, I was thinking, this is awesome. I love that people are liking this, and how can I expand? How can I grow with these rules? And I thought the perfect thing to do would be to start a podcast about the rules. Not about those rules that I have on TikTok, but a whole new set of rules. So I want each of the rules on this podcast to be born on each episode. So that brings me to rule number 1 for the podcast, which is no matter how many likes you get on social media, none of them count if you don't like yourself. I came up with this rule because even though I was obviously happy about my new likes, I'm also keenly aware of the fact that the very next day, people who liked you can all of a sudden stop liking you. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes, but ultimately, when you make being liked the most important thing, it's really easy for you to lose yourself in that pursuit. And that's not something that I'm new to, unfortunately, because I've constantly twisted myself to fit into clothes, roles, relationships, environments, and even schools that just didn't fit me. And that's not surprisingly, the times when I was the most miserable in my life. Some of you may or may not know this other fact, which is that after college, I competed in the Miss New York USA competition, and I was actually first runner-up, and I had lost by 1 single point. And I was obviously super devastated, but again, it was just another pursuit about meeting other people's expectations and sort of about winning a popularity contest, even though it's a bit more than that. But yeah, I was coming off of that huge loss, and I felt really just jaded. So I was like, what's next for me? Well, I knew I had an English degree from college, and I knew that I wanted to be on camera. So I was like, oh, obviously I'm going to go into journalism because I want to be on the news. That was my line of thinking. And when I got to NYU, my teachers asked me, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to be the female Ryan Seacrest. I don't even know what the fuck I was talking about. I still kind of don't know what the hell that means. But they turned around and they were like, oh, great. You have a face for the camera. You should be a war reporter. I was like, oh, okay, if you say so. So I did everything I could at NYU. I mean, I got good grades because even though I quickly knew that NYU and journalism school just was not the right fit for me, I stayed, of course, and I did my best, and I had a fancy internship, and I did all the things that you're supposed to do, and I even graduated with very high GPA, which I'm proud of. It's not that I'm not proud of the things that I accomplished there. It's just, at the end of the day, I knew that journalism just wasn't something I was going to be doing. So after that, though, when I graduated, I was back in the same place that I started, confused, lost, and alone, and having no idea what to do next. So that's what led me to acting. And acting was something that everyone and their mother was like, Alex, don't do it. You do not want to do it. The industry is terrible. It's rotten. There's no money, especially when you're starting out. It's extremely hard. You didn't go to acting school. What the hell are you doing? But for whatever reason, I was like, I want to do it. I have to do this. I need to figure out how to do this. I needed to pursue acting, the thing around me that everyone said that I shouldn't, because I knew on some level that it was the only way that I was going to develop into the person that I needed to be, in order to see through the bullshit, in order to realize that being cut off from myself was actually not the best way to live. And that success and likes really aren't even meaningful if how you get them is to do things that you don't like doing, you know? And social media too has been another test of how important I make the likes, because we all know social media is just as subjective and just as fickle as Hollywood is. So I didn't want social media to be another place where I don't feel free to be myself, where I can't be myself. So that's why I've had so much fun making the rules, because I feel like my thoughts I'm putting my thoughts out there, and people are validating my voice and what I think and what I have to say. And it's so important because I really have not experienced that before in my life. So that's why I'm super thankful for the rules and why I wanted to start the RuleBook. Because even if no one watches this podcast or nobody listens to it, that's okay, because I'm getting a lot out of doing it, because I'm getting to become the person who I'm meant to be just by doing this. Even if nobody likes it, that's okay. And that's why I think that this is the perfect first rule for the podcast. The likes do not count if you don't like yourself. So 1 million people could watch this, but if I'm not proud of it, and if I don't feel like I got value out of making it, it really doesn't matter. So thank you so much for tuning into the RuleBook. I really hope that I will see you again. I'm your host, Alex Palmer. I hope you tell a friend to check out this podcast and to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm really excited for doing this, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.